Every so often, we like to round up decent accessories for you guys, and this time around, we're focusing on the controllers themselves. If you're looking to heighten your gaming experience a little bit for under 50 bucks, we got you. Now keep in mind, everything we mention is linked in the description down below. But let's get started off with number 10. A lot of this stuff is pretty pedestrian, but the first thing we're going to recommend is Xbox One and PS4 controller charging docks. We've linked a reliable one from PowerA and from Nyko, and as basic as these sound, they're really a game changer, and sometimes you don't think about them and you don't realize how good it is until you have one. In the past, every time I needed to charge a controller, I would rummage around in my drawers for a long time or dig up my cell phone cable to charge it. But having one of these stands means whenever you're done playing, you just rest the controller and then it charges so that it's ready to go next time you play. It sounds really basic and really simple, but sometimes you just don't think about it. And when you do have something like this, you're not going to want to go back to the old ways, trust me. Now on number 9, since we're on the topic of charging, a lot of these have to do with charging if I'm honest, but let's talk about this USB extender. This is super basic, nothing special here, this just makes your USB charging cable longer. We've recommended long charging cables in the past just because they are kind of a game changer, but we figured we'd recommend this basic one from Amazon. It's usually like $5 and it's a male to female connection, meaning it essentially acts as an extension cord for your existing charging cable. So depending on what type of cable you use, you can make it instantly 9 feet longer. And you can even use it for your phone too if you're nasty. Like I said, sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. Next at number 8, we want to recommend this JoyCon charging dock for your Nintendo Switch. This one specifically is from PowerA and it usually retails for around 22 bucks and it looks really nice. Now I want to say it might not be too useful if you only have one set of Joy-Cons, because if you just have one pair, they'll charge within the Switch. But if you have multiple pairs and say you play Mario Kart very often and you want to charge them all at once and not lose them, this is a really great stand and charging station at the same time. This is probably one of the better solutions you can have if you have multiple Joy-Cons and maybe multiple family members or friends playing the thing constantly. And plus it's officially licensed, so it's got that Nintendo seal of approval that some of us fans really covet. Next at number 7, we want to recommend a PS4 controller audio adapter. The one we've linked is basically a store brand one from Best Buy, but it works pretty well. This is a kind of weird product just because the PS4 does already have an auxiliary port on the controller, and this adapter of course works and has an auxiliary port, but what you're getting here is onboard controllers for volume and muting, just like you'd get with the Xbox One stock headset. We're going to try and link one for an Xbox One controller as well, but those are a little trickier to nail down. Overall though, what this does is just kind of give you more muting, volume up, volume down control options for maybe some third-party headset that you're plugging into your PS4. Maybe it's not a gaming headset specifically, or maybe it just doesn't have any other onboard controllers. This little attachment will help you out quite a bit and you'll thank us later for it. Now at number 6, let's talk about these Xbox One and PS4 custom controller grips. For some players, the triggers just don't really cut it, especially for first-person shooter players. Most prefer paddles, but if you can't afford an Xbox Elite controller or something like that, or like a SCUF controller, these paddle add-ons are a pretty good bet. The Xbox One we recommend is from QuickShot, and it's just a basic trigger lock system that works pretty well. It's easier to just generally grip and hold the controller, but it also gives you faster trigger response times. And if you're playing something competitive like Call of Duty, you're going to want this. On the PS4 side, we're recommending the Collective Mind Strike Pack FPS Dominator adapter. These usually run for 40 bucks and they're basically paddle add-ons that do work pretty well, and like I said before, it just gives you that heightened control and better trigger response time. Now moving on to number 5, if we're talking about first-person shooter precision and stuff like that, if you can't use a keyboard and mouse, this is mostly a console list, obviously. But let's talk about thumbstick grips for a second, because they do actually work. They're not for everybody, they're not perfect, but since this is a controller accessories list and for the sake of being complete, we do want to recommend some. And honestly, it seems like the Control Freak brand is pretty much the one to go for. We recommend either the Alpha or the Vortex ones for PS4 and Xbox One, but it's all a matter of feel. You want to be the most comfortable with them and have the most accuracy, so you could try out different ones. They're not too expensive, and they're worth at the very least giving a shot. And while I'm at it too, we have no brand loyalty here. If you find cheaper ones, don't think you're shortchanging yourself. The build quality may not be as good, but the no-name brand or the cheaper brand usually is still pretty effective. I'm curious to see which ones you guys recommend in the comments though. But moving on to number 4, let's talk about chat keypads because they're pretty useful for specific types of games. If you don't like using voice chat but you still want to communicate with your team, or maybe even you're playing a console-based MMO, there's these chat pads that plug right into the bottom of your controller. This is really good if you're playing a teamwork-heavy game. It's set up like a phone QWERTY keyboard, so picking up on how to type on this thing should actually be a breeze, and if you grew up with cell phones with full keyboards, you should feel right at home with this. Honestly, it's like a trip down memory lane. For the Xbox One, we recommend the officially licensed Xbox chat pad. That usually runs for roughly under $50, and on the PS4 side, we're gonna recommend the Collective Minds Chat Boost. They're simple and effective and they work. They're keyboards. I don't know what more you want. But yet another segue while we're talking about communication, let's talk about mics, because a lot of times on this channel, we recommend gaming headsets, but the microphones still never sound that great. You really can never luck out with an excellent sounding mic, so we always recommend using something like a third-party USB mic, and then we just recommend using the headphones on your ears just for sound. Now what we can recommend here is this universal headset mic. This is from Antlion. And this mod mic basically just plugs in like any other controller-based mic, but what you're paying for is just the mic itself. So you're getting a higher quality microphone that's actually pretty useful. And the way it's universal is that it's designed to pretty much clip or attach onto any basic headset. And I know for a fact, like say you're using an Astro headset, this sounds better than the actual built-in Astro mic. Now these are often a little bit above $50, so it does get tricky, but they do go on sale often and you can catch them for $50 on the dot, so that's why we did want to recommend it to you guys. But let's move on. Let's talk more about Nintendo Switch at number 2 with this Nintendo Switch Grip. This is a protective case from honestly pretty much an unknown brand, but it's pretty decent. It's got a grip cover and it's got shock absorption and an anti-scratch design and just like a regular, basic, simple, sleek black. And simply, this is just because as much as I love the Switch, I'll be the first to admit that it isn't the most comfortable thing to hold, and sometimes it does feel kind of delicate, especially when it's long handheld play sessions. This thing grips around the entire console, including the Joy-Cons, to kind of just give it a bit better heft and protect it if you're traveling. It's a good in-between. It's a perfect combination of the uses, so that's why we wanted to recommend it, especially considering you can get it for under $15. Now down to number 1, since we are talking about controllers, let's talk about some controller grips. We've talked about trigger and paddle add-ons, but now I'm talking about the actual skins themselves. Because for some people, they like a little extra grip on their controllers. Maybe for those extra long play sessions where your hands are getting all gross and sweaty, and this keeps you from dropping your controller straight up, that's it. Definitely take the time to consider the actual material of the controller grip. We're gonna recommend silicone ones, but that material isn't really necessarily for everyone. The actual texture or feel for silicone does vary, so you're gonna have to be specific. The ones we like to recommend though, they're very simple. They're black and gray. They don't look crazy. They don't stand out. They're just sleek and professional. It's from this smaller brand called Pandarin, and they're $10 and you barely notice them, and they do come with thumbstick grips if that's what you want. There's not too much to say about them other than that it just gives you a little extra grip, and I'd even go as far as to say a little extra shock absorption. If you drop your controller a lot, at least you have that thin little layer of silicone to help it from a fall. It's not perfect, it's not that protective, but it's still something. There's a lot of different ones out there. Some are more utilitarian, some are more decorative. We picked more of the useful side than the actual decorative side, but I'm curious to see what you guys use out there. What do you recommend? But since we're talking about the comment section, this is the end of the video, so I want to know what kind of controller accessories you guys use down in the comments. Again, this is of course more of a console-focused video, but if you got any PC tricks up your sleeve as well, I'd like to hear it. Let's talk about anything video game controllers and game accessories down below. What other types of accessory roundups do you want to see from us? Because we got you covered. And if you learned a thing or two, clicking the like button does help us out with this video. We do really appreciate it. But if you're new, you should subscribe because we put out stuff like this all the time. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.